everyone, and welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a bat caving podcast for some of your bat caving needs. My name is Bruce.
My name is Spelunky Rich.
Oh, you son of a bitch!
Fuck yeah.
Spelunking is what Lucius Fox refers to Batman's, what is it? I don't know. His hobbies, if you will, in Batman Begins, I think.
Something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, so, hi everyone. We're talking about Batman, as you can probably tell this week. Yep. So, I was driving, no bullshit, this morning, behind a car of a grown man in a BMW with a bat symbol on the back of it.
Oh, lovely.
And does he think that's the Batmobile? Like, it's in, genuinely, I mean, like, it was quite like
Batmobile MW.
Yeah,
what could the MW be?
Yeah. Well, Batman wank. I don't know.
Batman's wheels.
Batman's wheels. There we go. Thank you. Much better than mine. And yeah, it was interesting to me because I was thinking, Batman has just sunk so far into culture. Like, it just feels like I think I was thinking about superheroes recently and how, we're kind of going through this flux with loads of superhero movies and hardly any, and then like Superman's out this week, for example, which they're calling Superman, and I'm like, how many Superman movies are called Superman?
It's a lot of Superman.
If you Google Superman, life is difficult, I'm going to say.
Did you mean Superman film? Yes. Yeah. Which one?
Yeah. But yeah, it just made me think about Batman and think about how much I would say people relate to him or love him. And how do you feel about Batman as a character? Like, as in, I'm going somewhere with this, but okay, I'm just asking you.
I am historically, I've not been a huge fan of DC Comics stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I always lent more Marvel way. But that said, Batman was usually tippity top of that list. Like I've always had a soft spot for the character. I mean, granted, like not all versions. Yes. But like I grew up with the animated series and all that kind of stuff, and the cool kind of Art Deco-y take on it, and Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy and all that jazz. Yeah. And was it Frank Miller's Year One stuff was a particular favourite back in the day and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like definitely got a bit of a soft spot for him. Nowadays, I could kind of take it or leave it. If there's something if there's a particular spin on the character that kind of catches my eye, I'll probably give it a look at some point. Yeah. But tend not to go out of my way.
Yeah, I feel very similar. And that's why it kind of came up as a bit of a sort of question in my head, was almost that I'm more of a movie sort of kind of guy, or at least I was when I was younger and stuff. So I've watched, as most people, this isn't a brag or anything, but watched all the Batman movies and enjoyed them all, even the ones that people would say, like a bit schlocky and things like that. And Batman and Robin, I think it was, that was, with the bullet nipples. And but I've always enjoyed seeing him on the big screen. Particularly enjoyed the Nolan trilogy, and even the newest one, Robert Pattinson, was really good as well. I saw that on IMAX. Like, I said it's recently, it's a few years ago now, but I think the second one's coming out soon. And it's like,
I saw it on a plane. Yeah, that was not the place to watch a particularly dark film.
Batman's great on IMAX. That is in. I remember seeing.
Less good on an airplane.
Yeah. Except, oh gosh, there's that thing, wasn't there, where you couldn't hear Tom Hardy's Bane in Dark Knight Rises at all. It was like, what is happening? Like, there's no sound in this fucking IMAX for any speech. But getting back to the point anyway, and just I feel the same way as you kind of nowadays, though. That I think that I'm more intrigued by, and not that it's the direct comparison necessarily, but certainly by, say, Iron Man, for example, and his most recent iterations than I am Batman. And then even drilling down further from that, more so than those two, like Spider-Man. And I think I'm more likely to feel more sympathy towards a character that is not a rich white man who happens to be the best detective in the world and the best ninja in the world. And I know this is going to sound completely stupid, but it's not explained by superpowers. He's just a human.
He's really good.
It's like with Spider-Man, he's meant to be this broke kid, like, in the middle of the city, who just has these weird powers, like given to him effectively by Spider-Man. And it's almost like I kind of get I enjoy his spiraling out of control and controlling that situation more than
Batman.
Just Batman just seemed. How many times am I going to see Thomas and Martha Wayne get murdered down an alley? He's all I'm going to say in every single. That seems to be his thing, and that's. I don't know. Spider-Man seems to have a lot more angst, whereas Batman's an older man who just seems to have everything, and I'm meant to feel like some sort of love for him. I don't know. I feel less of it nowadays.
I'm sure the internet will correct me very quickly, but like. I always get the impression, he says, picking his words carefully, I always get the impression that, say, Spider-Man has more variations on the origin story than Batman does.
Yeah.
Like, Batman, there seems to be a lot more consistency in what makes a Batman.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost to its detriment.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, you say about, like, the Batman Begins and stuff like that. I've watched that reasonably recently. I think it's probably the more recent one that I watched.
Yeah.
And you can't help but think like, okay, cool. I'm kind of learning about how he's learning how to fight, but like, what about the years in law school, like learning detective skills and stuff? Like, where's that bit of the story? Like that always seems to get glossed over, and all that kind of stuff. So. Yeah, it always. I mean, I guess he's meant to be a mysterious character, isn't he? But there always seems to be these massive gaps.
It's just like, I think Batman Begins is my favourite Batman movie as well. But you are right at the start. It's just like, done
law school.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I did enjoy how it became a bit more. He was trying to make it a bit more detective story-esque in the Batman, the most recent one. But yeah, that isn't. I guess rounding back on that conversation, it's not that I don't love Batman. It's just one of those things where recently I've kind of went, am I as
invested?
In Batman as I once was, and I think I am less so. Probably when I was a 25-year-old man going in the cinema.
Is that what you did?
Yes, I did. Yes. Leave now.
How did you not get kicked out?
Don't make me leave. That kind of thing. So anyway, we are going to talk about video games now, though. So you have been playing the 1990 iteration of Batman on the Sega Mega Drive.
I have.
And I've been playing Batman Arkham Asylum from 2009. But I've been playing I played like the Return to Arkham edition, so the 2016 sort of polish version, which... I don't think there was like that much difference necessarily in 2009 in terms of the main story and the main game and things. So hopefully that's a good representation of the 2009 game. Do you want to start first chronologically, sort of, and let us know? Because I've seen screenshots of this game. It looks really pretty. Like Batman looks great in his little sort of 16-bit way.
It's a great little sprite.
Yeah.
Sprite. This is from Sunsoft, who did the Batman game on the NES, which is very highly regarded. This is different. This is a different game. Weirdly, follows the film plot closer.
I'd heard, that it was a bit more...
bit closer to the film. Has a big, long crawl at the start.
Oh, right, okay.
Explaining stuff. And I've read it a couple of times now, and I can't remember any of it. Because the start of the game is still kind of like the start of the film.
Okay,
kind of, if I remember right. So it's a bit of an odd one. It's almost like it's trying to give you backstory that you kind of didn't need. But anyway, like you say, the artwork is great on all this kind of stuff. The other thing that I want to highlight straight out the gate is the music in this game. Like, considering it was an early Mega Drive release, how it looks and how it sounds is really genuinely impressive. And I can imagine if you were playing it at the time, reasonably new out the gates, like, I imagine it would have been a pretty impressive step up.
Is it fully licensed movie music, or is it just inspired by the movie? Is it a Danny Elfman score?
So I didn't spot any Danny Elfman stuff. Okay. But what is in here is fitting
esque.
And well, I don't even know if it's esque really, but it kind of does its own thing, but it still works.
Yeah.
As I sit here right now, I've still got a couple of the tunes rattling around my head. So I wanted to pick those out because they are probably my favourite bits about the game.
Oh, okay.
So it's good, right? It's short, It is very short. I've not like fully completed it, but it wouldn't take much more to learn enough of it to be able to bulldoze my way through. So I think my kind of big, it feels harsh to say criticism, right? The big thing about it for me is just it feels quite stiff, right? Okay. To go back however many years later, I haven't done the maths, haven't, and play it, it feels very stiff, right? Batman does not move quickly. He is not a nimble fella. He struts. Literally struts.
But does he do that anyway, though?
He literally struts. And I don't mean like a menacing strut. I mean like, so you can tell by the way I do that. Like, he struts, man, right? He's Bee Geesing his way down the road.
Michael Jackson's moonwalk, and it's sort of like, starts like shooting stars out.
It's a little bit like, I mean, I kid you not, right? One of the first notes I wrote here was strut right, punch stuff. And my wife came in and saw me playing this, was like, why is Batman strutting? Like, completely unrelated. Yep. The man struts.
Yeah, he looks jazzier than usual.
Yeah, he really does. And I think, obviously, like, you get used to some of the more recent iterations, as I'm sure you'll come to, and like how much more nimble he is. And then you kind of remember the jokes in some of the more recent films about like wanting to turn your head and how, you know, they weren't really able to make him do that in Tim Burton's films and all that. And it kind of fits. So I do see where you're coming from with the kind of cumbersome movement.
Yeah.
But when you're playing a video game,
it's not
ideal.
It's not.
It's not ideal. I know there are plenty of people that would say as well that particularly for Sunsoft and the kind of platform games they made, a lot of them would look notoriously difficult, right? This, I think, definitely feels like it's toned down a fair bit. And I say that as someone who was basically an idiot and nearly managed to finish it. I would have finished it had I played more, but unfortunately I've been playing Indiana Jones, so I didn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah, it's one of those ones that is here for a good time, not a long time. Yeah. Where it does, well, it kind of strays from being challenging into frustrating a couple of times, particularly when it comes to like enemy placement and particularly like proximity to ledges and things you're jumping over and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's randomized or like randomized to a point and you'll get one of a couple of different patterns or something like that, but occasionally you'll get through a section without too much hassle, but other times there might be somebody that's just really inconveniently placed, ready to just knock you back down a chasm or something like that. And it's that kind of design. And if you haven't got enough like batarangs handy, then you know you don't have many options.
Who does?
Yeah. Well, exactly.
There's never enough.
Exactly. So yeah, like it's functional as a sort of early 90s platformer slash kind of action game. It's functional. It's not punchy enough to be a beat 'em up. It's not platform intensive enough to be a full-on platformer.
I was going to ask, that seems a bit strange. I was like, what kind of balance does it strike across there? Because it feels like a lot of games that are scroll right and you can fight. How beat 'em up do they get? Or are they just kind of like, you know, every so often you have like an interaction with people, but
so this seems to fit in a middle ground, and I almost kind of wish they'd have picked more of a lane with it. So yeah, like the first level, you will march right and then punch people as you go. Yeah. There is no platforming. There is no need to jump. There is like, it is a completely flat street. And then like second level, you are required to jump and use a grappling hook and stuff like that. So like that's where they start to work in some of the platforming stuff. There's a couple of bits as well that are horizontal shooters when you're in the Batmobile or Batwing and stuff like that. But again, like they're big sprites, they're big old hitboxes and stuff like that. It's like they're fine, they're fun. They do start to outstay their welcome a little bit, I found, but that's me. I think my biggest issue with it, ironically enough, was not really with the game. So on that second level where you are actually required to jump, right? You have a couple of boxes that you can hop up on to avoid people sort of sliding into your shins. It's not even a joke.
Vinnie Jones out of nowhere.
Basically. Like, that is just what those enemies will do. And that's fine, right? But there's a point where you have to jump from a small pipe across to a stack of, I don't know, 3 or 4 crates to carry on. And it's clearly one of those points where it's like, okay, have you read the manual?
Oh, right.
Have you learned these mechanics? This is a skill check. Yeah. And I do not have the manual for this game. No. And it took me absolutely ages because I was just jumping normally.
What's the combination?
Yeah, exactly. And so many attempts, and like maybe 1 or 2 out of however many attempts, I would, by luck more than judgment, get across this gap. And I was like, this can't be right. Like, it just can't be right. It's the way that I'm playing it, like, screwing up, because I'm using one of those like Mega Retron HD things, the Hyperkin console things. It's like, is the way it's emulating it like weird? Like, I've got the cartridge in and all that kind of stuff, but is it just piping it through weird? Have I got the speed setting wrong and it's getting confused? Is it something to do with the controller and the input's not working properly or something? Checked and checked and checked, couldn't find anything wrong. Went online. Oh, he's got like a double jump somersaulty thing. Well, that's annoying. That's really annoying.
Of course he has. It's Batman. He's got all that kind of shit going on.
Turns out he can block as well. Didn't know that either. So
we get hit in the face over and over.
Like jumping around trying to, do Batman things.
I'm going to say that's your fault, though. Being a fighting game expert, you should know there's a block, right?
Well, it's not a fighting game.
You should feel like there's a block.
This is the thing. It's not a fighting game, and it's not a platformer. It's not it's just in the middle. Yeah. It's proper like
an action adventure.
Yeah,
that's what they call them, right?
Isn't it?
Is that
that's why you need a term that broad for like your movie tie-in and stuff. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. As a movie tie-in game, like, it's actually pretty good. Like, I'd take it over a lot of other ones. But as an experience to go back to and enjoy, unless you've got the nostalgia for it, I think it's going to be a bit of a slog.
Okay.
I mean, it's a Mega Drive game. The lesson is, look, read the manual, or at least get on something like Sega Retro and check the controls or something. And that is on me. But at the same time, you do realise that this skill check, actually looking back at the number of levels in the game, is probably about a quarter of the way through the game.
Oh, right.
Before you even need to jump, So yeah, it's fine. It's fun. I didn't hate my time with it. I didn't go out of my way to play it more than I needed to or felt I needed to. So I think it's going to be a 5 out of 10 from me, and I'm going to cough. Sorry.
No, don't be.
But yeah, like it's good, and I can imagine if you've got nostalgia for it, you would absolutely go to bat for it, and I get that. There is, like, if you are in and you loved it at the time, you will still love it. I can basically guarantee it, and it looks good, sounds great. But yeah, it just didn't quite stick the landing for me.
How long did you spend with it, or how long do you think it would be in terms of length of game?
So I saw one estimate that reckoned that you would be able to learn it and beat it inside of a few hours, and that's with multiple attempts before you actually beat it. I would probably agree with that. I spent a few hours with it, then I learned about the double jump, and suddenly was getting within a couple of stages of finishing, and I think there's only about like 8 of them or something like that.
Oh, right, okay. Are they like save codes and stuff?
No,
really?
So it's like a kind of one sitting,
one and done.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering about the length. I was like,
It's that's a fair point. So like they probably looked at it and were like, well, if we're not going to let you save, then it's got to be a reasonably doable experience. But I think, like, I was sitting there playing it thinking like, I kind of wish it played more like Ninja Gaiden or something like that. And then I was like, I could just go play Ninja Gaiden. Or, I mean, the other one that came to mind was there was again on the Mega Drive, there was like an Adventures of Batman and Robin game that played much more like Gunstar Heroes.
Oh, really?
And you were just like flinging batarangs around like everywhere.
Oh, wait, shit. I think I've got a vague memory of playing that. Like, as in now you just sort of said it that way,
like, But that's another one that looks phenomenal. But like, I didn't quite get on with, like, when I have played it, the rare time I played it. I just didn't quite get on with it. So yeah, I think basically on balance, what I'm saying is I prefer the more up-to-date Batman games.
Okay, fair enough. That sounds like a
convenient segue, isn't
it? Like, crack on, mate. Just have a look. This is something that I was thinking about again when I was driving to it this morning behind Batman wheels, and I was just thinking about, trying to coalesce that thought about Spider-Man and Batman, and I was trying to think what's the best animal combination that or the worst even maybe, like, that you can have as a superhero, like, as in when you get like laughed out the building, like, as in, because
what's the worst thing you could be bit by,
like, which
end up inheriting traits from,
like Skunk Man. I don't really
Skunk Man would be pretty bad.
But then you probably on the flip side, that you'd have a pretty kick-ass superpower, I assume. Like, as in, you would just stink out every fucking build. Every villain would be like,
yeah, I suppose that'd be convenient.
I'm wondering if there's just a real lame duck. Like, as in, that's
just, a duck
man.
It would be a pretty bad.
It's kind of duckula, isn't it? Is he not?
Pretty much. Probably some similarities there.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I just thought, I wonder if there's like something that you kind of think, because Batman is so fucking cool, isn't he? Like, as in, with the strut and everything.
What ended up on the cutting room floor when they were pitching animal-based superhero names? What were they, like, Donkey Man? Oh no!
It's Donkey Kong. They're all out there somewhere, aren't they? Right. Okay. Sorry. My aside done.
I need more sweets for this.
Batman Arkham Asylum. I texted you about this.
You did.
On the off chance that you played it, I assumed that you would have played all the Batmans, like the new ones.
The Batman.
And is there any more recent ones, particularly than the Rocksteady versions of, apart from him being in Injustice and things? I can't think. Is there any more? I know there was some.
I can't remember. Does he pop up in Suicide Squad or something like that?
Maybe. I mean, I know there was like the movie tie-ins with the Nolan ones, like the self-titled Batman Begins, like PlayStation 2 games and stuff.
Yeah. I think, wasn't he like in multiverses or something like that?
Maybe, yeah.
Like, just sort of. I guess my point is like guest spots.
Yes, yeah.
Rather than you are playing as Batman now.
Yeah, because I own, I think, then the most recently released Batman game, which is an Arkham game as well, which is actually on the MetaQuest 3, and it's called Arkham Shadow. I've not played it yet. That wasn't like a lead into, this is what I've played. I keep meaning to. But that was only released last year, specifically for the Quest 3, and I'm looking forward to that. But the reason I haven't played that is because I hadn't really started, or at least finished, any of the other Arkham games before now.
Should probably find out what an Arkham is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what is an Arkham? I had started Batman Arkham Asylum back in 2009, so it was a PS3, Xbox 360 release, developed by Rocksteady Studios, who had only done, if you get this, 1,000 points, the only game they'd done before they did any of the Batman games. Oh, it's okay, you don't have to get it.
I feel like I know.
Urban Chaos was the so
I would not have got that.
No, but it's generally quite well regarded. And then they jumped onto this, and you can imagine how much of a, like, career spike that was for them as a studio. I mean, this, I guess. Would you regard this game as revolutionary at the time?
I would be tempted to, mainly for the combat.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, is revolutionary too strong a word? I can never really remember like what did the kind of parrying, counter-attacking in a crowd thing first, like this or Assassin's Creed.
There was this, Assassin's Creed. The Warriors kind of did a bit, but they didn't really do that much of like the parry sort of situation. It's really funny because I've played Sleeping Dogs that's kind of done the situation this year, and I'm also currently playing a free play that kind of does the same sort of thing again. So, yeah.
I think this is arguably where that approach kind of got refined enough for people to want to start to copy it.
Yes.
And obviously copy it.
Yeah. And I'll come on to that because I think that I texted you a couple of weeks ago, sort of saying, I was like, I don't know if I'm really getting this game. I don't know if I'm really getting like why everybody thinks it's one of the best games ever made.
Did you read the manual? did you miss some crucial controls? Because that happens.
Well, the great thing is the manual's in the game nowadays, pretty much. So, and I think that, and this isn't. Don't worry, this isn't one of these, Fazz drag downs where I'm like, haha, oh yeah, it's all shit. It's like, it, like. At this point now, after playing through it, I generally get how much it sings as a game. I do have a couple of like sort of cons that I feel like, coming to it fresh, almost fresh in 2025. Like, you know, again, when you said, "Oh, newer Batman game, 16 years old," so just stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Alfred. It's just so, but it has had that polish in 2016, and then you do get that through thread to Arkham City and Arkham Knight as well. So you know, it is, I guess, as a whole package recent. So I back to the 2009 thing, and when I kind of tried to play it, this was kind of a period of time where I had my PlayStation 3, but I didn't necessarily sit down and play sort of single player experiences that often. I was kind of playing a lot of multiplayer online, and I'd played Metal Gear Solid 4, for example, but I was playing a lot of Pro Evo University, you know, and it was like, you know, Metal Gear Online, for example, or anything like that, and Modern Warfare Online and stuff. So I wasn't necessarily into my like single player modes and stuff, whereas this game definitely feels like it's almost they've put challenges in that you can kind of go against people for leaderboards and things like that, but actually quintessentially it is just a single player get your head down and beat Batman situation, which I wasn't necessarily I clearly wasn't the mindset for then. Now very much more so. Yeah, but it still took me a couple of hours to get into, as previously stated. So just to kind of give anybody in the entire world, like me, who hasn't played Batman Arkham Asylum. So the idea is then that the Joker assaults Gotham City Hall as a bit of a ruse to get himself put away in Arkham Asylum by Batman, zooming on his Batmobile. And the idea is that he's done that because, and this isn't necessarily spoilers, in there, some of his goons have been moved from Blackgate Prison into Arkham Asylum because there was I think it was a fire at Blackgate maybe. And Joker's grand scheme is to get Batman into Arkham Asylum and kind of just basically toy with him and also the city and all of Batman's friends, who... I was going to make this point later, but I'll make it now, are all a bit shit. Like, as in, no one ever really helps Batman out. Like, as in, you know, like, and I get he's like, you know, like that lone wolf Dark Knight situation and stuff, but I just wish Commissioner Gordon, as lauded as he is as a character, and everyone's like, oh, Commissioner Gordon's like, I'd love him as a dad. He's great, isn't he? He's lovely. He's fucking bollocks at everything he does. Like, as he never helps hardly ever. Like, as in, maybe like once or twice I remember Gary Oldman doing something a little bit useful. But, like, you know, like, that made that sound like Gary Oldman's not useful. No, all the time Gary Oldman's useful. Oh, God, he would kill me. Anyway, but yeah, just... I wish the surrounding cast of positive characters around Batman were a little bit better to helping out Batman more often.
Step up, Nightwing.
Yeah, just like, you know, like there's a lot of them. There's a lot of supporting characters of good guys and bad guys in Gotham, and it's amazing that there's such a wide, vast world of it. I just think that even on, I guess, the enemy side of things, sometimes you just kind of think, you know, I wish somebody were just better at your jobs, basically. But that's not the Joker. The Joker's always seems to be pretty good at his job. It seems to be the consummate villain. Like, he's always played his part. So he threatens to bomb Gotham if everyone wants to come onto Arkham Island. So basically, Batman's kind of alone, and he has to make his way through Arkham Asylum, almost in a bit of a kind of Metroidvania way, in so much you visit different areas once and then you go back a couple of times to sort of solve what's going on, and you're kind of alone basically. So in general, I would say that it's almost like a little mini open world sort of experience that you can go and explore, but I'd say it's quite a linear story as well. Like, I didn't feel any need to go and find more things. Like, I know there's quite a lot of like Riddler sort of trophies you can go and find, and what are they called again? Arkham Myths, I think they are, on the wall where you scan them with your detective glasses or whatever the fuck they are, detective mode. And it just, there was loads of those little things kicking about, but none of that really actually interested me. And I think that kind of ignoring that got me more into the story after a few hours than if I'd have been sort of worrying about side quests and going to do different bits. Actually, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did.
That's fair.
Yeah, but once you kind of get into the sort of the main thrust of the whole game, then actually it flows so well. And the thing that I had as an overarching thought after a little while was, fucking hell, this is just like Die Hard. Like, as in, this is literally like, as in, you are just basically John McClane, but you are Bruce Wayne. Like, as in, and you're stuck in one place, and you've got against all these enemies, and you basically it's all framed in one night as well, just like Die Hard.
And
and that's what it just took me a little while to kind of coalesce that thought, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is just and all the best movies. I mean, for me personally, all the best movies or best books or best games and things are that tense situation, one night, escape from New York, The Thing, like all that John Carpenter stuff, where it's just like, Assault on Precinct 13, that kind of thing, where it's just the tense. You kind of feel it even over, say, a 2-hour period in a movie, or even the 10-hour period of this game. Like, as in, you feel every moment. Like, as in, they do a really good job of it, and it's really commendable. This game made me feel the exact same way as those kind of movies and stories do, which is just thrilled basically by the idea of it. So that's great, and that's really good. I'm going to start though, and obviously I said that was a positive. I'm going to start with a couple of the things that I kind of had a bit of a. No, it wasn't even. These aren't even like massive gripes. They're just little things that I was like, oh, these are notable, and I was like trying to think. I think a lot of people would see this game as probably, if you never played it again, say after 2009, you probably I say some people might be like, oh, it's a 10 out of 10, like, absolutely stunning game. And I kind of see that a lot of people still think it's probably the best of the three. Maybe Arkham City's probably evolved on it. But as a pure gameplay sort of thing, to get in and out in 10 hours, a lot of people say, oh yeah, it's perfect as it is. How do you feel about that statement coming out of my mouth?
I mean, I can see why people would pick it. Personally, I was always the Arkham City guy. I mean, it's, in fact, thinking about it, I think Arkham City might be one of the reasonably small list of games that I've 100%ed.
Oh, really? Wow.
Like, actually went and found all the Riddler stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I never usually feel the need to do things like that. So, yeah, like, I've definitely got a soft spot for City. And I've played and replayed it a few times. And yet, I've never gone back to the first game ever since playing it the first time. So I just prefer City that much more, I think. Yeah.
Which might be that City evolves to the point where actually it has everything that Asylum has, and then just makes it better. Maybe, yeah, exactly.
And also, I think it's because I'm a sucker for Two-Face as a villain, and like City opens with quite a lot of Two-Face stuff. Yeah. So that was probably what got its hooks in me.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So my point was going to be then that I think that there's a couple of things that hold it back from that sort of top echelon for me now, sort of coming at it cold 16 years later. The control layout feels a bit like, it's just a bit of a faff, to be honest. That is in, so combat aside, if you will, that is in, so the combat part of it, I'm going to keep completely separate and say that's pretty awesome. Like, as in, as you sort of...
Did you feel like Batman?
A little bit. Yeah. Batman wheels. But then, outside of that, it just feels a bit fiddly, kind of messing around with all of your tools on the sort of, like, I guess, the weapon wheel. The thing that I really remember the most was almost, and it sounds like a stupid thing, but it's the explosive foam spray.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of have to, like, fiddle around with a couple of buttons, like... You've got to hold the trigger button whilst you're doing everything, and it's not brain breaking. It's not brain breaking or game breaking, but it's just like, I remember just being a few times. I imagined it in my head. I was like, just Batman, just like juggling this foam like fucking grenade, and be like, oh. And I was like, oh, this is such a Fazz Batman. So yeah, that I don't know if anyone else feels that out there, but it was certainly something that I'd noticed. I was like, The camera angle, again, outside of combat, it feels a bit weird. It's like hip height. And it's almost like, it just feels like Batman strutting hips, like, like just keep covering the camera.
Batmans.
It's just like, it never really kind of gets the angle that I want it to be. And I'm like, am I over your shoulder? Am I down here? Am I, where am I? And it didn't feel like, it felt like there could have been an option to move that around. And I looked around, I couldn't find a very obvious option to do that. Yeah. And it didn't feel like it sat in the right place for me. Again, minor gripe. Detective mode. So this is a positive and a negative. Really cool that they let it lean so hard into Batman as a detective. It feels like it's pretty, like, just wrote how they use it. It's
you
like,
are just scanning stuff, aren't you?
It's just like, literally, turn on your detective mode, here's the blood on the floor, follow the blood. And it's just like, well, I could have done that if I didn't have my fucking detective mode on. Do you know what I mean? Like, I said, could have just followed that. What's that smell in the air? It's tobacco, right? Oh, well, I'll just sniff. Like, it just felt like just really stupid sort of little things where it was like...
That's another thing that Assassin's Creed did as well, thinking about Google Vision. Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, this is a cool concept, but I have to keep on putting it on and off, or keep it on all the time. And actually, that kind of obviously brings that UI around you that's, like, is in not the actual natural colours of the Asylum, which it kind of annoys me because I want to look at the game as it should be. And it was just sort of like on, off, or constantly on, and then I'm like, but all I'm keeping it on for is following a trail. And I just feel like they could have done more with that. And but it was also like a cool point of difference, if you will. Like, so it was good that it was there to do something different. I just don't think it was doing enough different well. That's a bad sentence.
I can't remember with the first game. Like, do you like skeletons of enemies and stuff like that? Like, can you sort of see them through obstacles?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, because I would have forgotten that point. And that is cool.
Yeah.
And you feel like you kind of, when you have it on during combat, it's almost like, so you probably don't want it on during combat, really, because you want to be able to sense how because effectively all the enemies come with a bit of a spidey tingle on their heads and go, oh, I've got a knife, or I'm coming at you now.
Attack incoming.
Again, Batman, the greatest detective in the world, obviously you can see that in the back of his head. He's got the lines coming out of his head, that guy, fucking hell. But it is cool to sort of see the skeletal sort of, function, I guess. But
again, I wonder if, like, you going back to you saying earlier on about, like, whether or not this game was revolutionary. Again, like with the combat, I wonder if this is one of the first times we saw that as well. Because, I mean, like, Hitman is another one that comes to mind as having that kind of instinct kind of thing going on. And I know there's a bunch of others, but I would struggle to point to many games that were doing it earlier, apart from maybe Assassin's Creed, but I'm getting my dates mixed up.
No, Assassin's Creed would have been sort of, I guess, 2007, maybe, I think it was. So
what I had in my head,
thereabouts.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a really good point about video games having this instinct situation, because that I'm not going to bag on this game for that. I'm just bringing it up as a point because I think that it is a video game, and that's what, like, that's a power fantasy. Exactly. That's the medium that I'm using, and it's like, so same thing as Hitman, Assassin's Creed, and things. Of course, you can't see fucking through walls or shit. You know what I mean? Like, or sense that, like, when you look at a map, you can't, like, oh, I know where that enemy is on my map and stuff. And it's just like that. That's just not real life. That is, it's just, you can, and then you can get rid of that, and people go, oh, this is fucking too difficult. This is too much of a sim and stuff. And it's like, so I don't want that to happen. I want them to keep little things in that, little prompts and stuff that make it easier for me to play the game.
I mean, lest we forget Metal Gear Solid's radar that you can see enemies' vision cones on.
Yeah. I think vision cones, it's like, I think I spoke about, I remember speaking about the Driver podcast and sort of saying, how the cops are fucking maniacs, but stay out of that little tiny cone. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely okay. It's just like, so you need those prompts in a game. So I'm not saying it's a horrible thing that every single other game has it as well. It's just, it was just notable that this also had it as well, and it wasn't necessarily revolutionary to me, but
I guess that's my point. Is this another case of it's not necessarily the first to do the thing, but is it one of the ones that helped popularize it?
Yes,
I
maybe
guess.
evolution.
Yeah.
So just the transitions between cutscenes were a bit off sometimes, like a bit clunky. Like some characters, I'd be like speaking to them as Batman, and and let's get on to the voice acting and the sounds and things like that. So I need to be very careful what I'm about to say here. Voice acting is sensational. It's really, really good. Sounds amazing. Like which I knew it would anyway, with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill and things. They did such a brilliant job of making that work. The scripting of Batman is very stilted for me in this. Like he's not got any swagger whatsoever. It feels like it's like some sort of infomercial all the time. Just like, it doesn't feel. I felt like they could have written a better Batman than what they did in this as well. I was like, oh, that is it sounds amazing, but it sounds amazing, but also it's just so stupid what he's saying right now. I felt like it was almost doing a disservice to how well the acting was.
You've gone to the effort of getting Kevin Conroy in that chair.
Write something for him.
Let the man cook.
Yeah. So I don't know whether that's noticeable or people can remember that or anything, but certainly I was like, it's like, well, can we just have a bit more, like pizzazz, more strut. And then the last sort of thing was just is there too many big moments in this game for a 10-hour run time? So there's so many big villains, and they all seem to just get like a couple of moments here and there, and it feels like they could have been used more, and to better effect as well. I didn't really feel at any point I was kind of necessarily under threat from any of the sort of big villains. I think, you know, like, is it Big Croc?
Yeah.
Like probably the most innovative sort of style of boss battle, if you will. That was fun. But then apart from that, the Bane fight, and it wasn't anything special. The Poison Ivy fight, and towards the end, wasn't anything special. You know, and
God, do you know what? I genuinely forgot they were both in it.
Yeah, well, there we go. So, and it just all those little fights are like with the bosses, if you will, and these iconic villains that you think that it would just be, you know, the fact that they can do. And so stop there. Scarecrow as well. How do you feel about those inverted commas boss battles in this game? Because they try and do something different as well.
Yeah, I thought they were clever. I remember them freaking me out at the time, which is usually a plus point, because it shows that it's done something that I've noted. But I have a vague recollection that perhaps there might have been, like, almost feels like one too many instances of it.
Yeah, I think
like,
it's 3 times.
Almost outstays his welcome a touch. But also, I can't remember if he pops up again in City and or Night and all that kind of stuff. And it's I think it got a tad self-indulgent rather than like fun throwback. It was more like, we know that these bits got noted last time. Let's use more of these bits rather than doing something a little bit different. So yeah, like I remember being initially impressed, but I think over time and over games and over use, the effect kind of got a bit diminished.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I bemoaned the idea that, you know, the Batman origin story of the, you know, his parents being killed and stuff, the lead into the second interaction, I'm going to call it an interaction, with the Scarecrow, where he's kind of walking down the alleyway and he sees his parents.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah,
and that's like, you know, that, oh right, okay, you know, that's interesting. That is, you know, that's almost like a less edgy sort of Silent Hill-esque like idea.
Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah,
but then you kind of get into this weird sort of platforming thing, and then you end up just kind of like preventing him from killing you by shining a light at him in a dream, and it just didn't. I know he's not meant to make any sense as an enemy in terms of, like, you know, he's meant to confuse you and things, but the mechanisms that you use to defeat him, in the end, he just falls in the river. Like, it's pretty much just like into a sewer. And it's just like, I appreciated they were doing something different. It just didn't stick the landing all the way, basically, with that. It was like if Psycho Mantis was there, but they didn't have the controller change, and he just had a man in a leotard with a gas mask on, just going hello. So yeah, it was one of those where it just didn't have the same sort of effect as that, for example. So that's kind of all my little tiny gripes out the way. Like, as in, you know, massive pros. Like I say, in terms of what I said before, just with how it sounds amazing. And that Die Hard situation, I felt constantly like propelled by this story. There was constant interaction with the environment and constant interaction with the enemies, and having the Joker just constantly just having a dig at your side. You know, like, even the script wasn't great. You know, Mark Hamilton's amazing. Like, you know, and just there's always something going on. Like, as in, and it. After a little while, once I got on the train with it, and I was like, yes, I really do enjoy this now. That is in. It became one of those games where it's like, can't wait to go back to that tonight. Do you know what I mean? Can't wait to go and play the next 2 hours of that tonight.
Yeah.
And just being able to, even though it is linear, like, is in, you can kind of almost circumnavigate your own way around the island, whichever way you want to, and run into whichever goons you want to sort of level up, if you will. And little things like when you beat the goons up and the little bats fly out of them, which are the XP bats and stuff. Like, it's just nice. I like that kind of little effect and stuff. So they filled the world with detail, and that's like, you know, that matters to me the most. Like that, and then getting on to how good the gameplay is once you're in the combat as well. So as you said before, whilst I've sort of used this word revolutionary a few times in the podcast now, this does feel like probably a point where it's like, you know, definitely the first game that a lot of people probably remember from the time, but also now it still feels really good to play. It still feels like the fluidity and the movement and the motion that you get from moving from goon to goon when you actually start to build up the combos, and you've got that combo system where it's like, it almost starts to detect how well you're doing in a fight, and you start ping-ponging around people, and you're almost reaching further and further every single time with a different kick and punch.
Doing a bit more damage.
And then building up to sort of, you got your combo up to 10, and then it gives you, I think it's at 8 you can get it to, and then it gives you an extra move to do, and you're desperate to use it. You're like, I don't want to lose my combo now, because I really want to, like, the next person who's the next generic sort of guy you're going to beat up is going to get fucked. Like, it's just like you land on his head and just crush him. And it's just like, I really want to use that on somebody. So just to have that momentum building up during every single fight, and once you start to learn that it's so super important to be parrying and getting that block in to keep that going, then you start to really believe in what you're doing, and actually you do start to feel a bit more like Batman than you thought you would do before. There was a couple of, like, I'd say tough. I don't think any of the boss fights are tough. I thought some of the little areas, if you will, sort of that you kind of get into, where there'd be goons, and it'd be like, all right, you need to go up there and turn a wheel or whatever. And it'd be like, you have to do it all stealthy. And there'd be like, say, 8 goons walking around this tiny little area. Like, how am I meant to do this? And even if you had all the tool set there, and you're like, you use your batarangs and your bat claws and stuff and everything, they would just, even on normal mode, they were just like on it. They were like, oh no, it's over there. And it'd be like 4 of them turn around the corner, and like, you don't have really any damage control. Like, as soon as you get hit by like 3 bullets, you're done. So it wasn't an easy game to get through necessarily once you get to the sort of end bits. But I think the only boss battle that I really kind of struggled with, and when I say struggled, I mean I just had to do it like 6 or 7 times, was Poison Ivy. Like, and I remember one time with that where, where you beat it, where you've got a sliver of health left, and the boss hits you just as you hit them for their last hit, and it starts playing the cutscene. And it fails on you, and you're like, oh, and you're like, I died, and they died. Like, who got the last punch? Really? Come on, ref! Like, that happened to me once with her, and I was like, oh fuck! It's like that was a waste of my time. Yeah. But that was on me. I shouldn't have been so low in health. But yeah, so there was never. That was the only frustrating thing I found at any point with the combat, was just like, not necessarily difficulty spikes, but there was a couple where I was like breezing through, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, this is quite tough. So yeah. I mean, just having that simple 3-button system of strike, counter, and stun, they were kind of the things that you worked in, really. And the way they build that up over a period of time, where it's like they kind of start you off and sort of say, oh, fight 2 or 3 people here. And then the option they give you when you're walking towards the Joker fight at the end, where it's like, if you really want to, you can fight these 16 people in this corridor. And like, and I was like, immediately I was like, I really have to start fighting here. I just have to see how many I can get through before I get absolutely dicked. I think I got like 7 down, and I was like, I could work on this and get better. It was almost like the arcade mode just before the main boss. And I was like, and I thought, no, I haven't got time for this. But I was like, I really did want to think, to get to that point where I was like, I will just defeat all these people. So yeah, that was fun that they kind of put that in there. Apart from that, little sides as well. So you can pick this up for like the whole trilogy, like regularly, if you just keep your eye on it on different sales and different platforms. Like, I saw it last month, all 3 of them for £5. £5 for like all the Arkham series. It's just absolutely insane, considering how well regarded they are and well spoken about they are. Maybe a little bit less at night, but still. And just how much of a fucking financial menace, speaking of money, is Batman? Like, during this game, like, so I know the Asylum kind of gets wrecked a little bit. Well, it definitely gets wrecked by Poison Ivy at the end. But prior to that, like, he's just there dropping fucking giant chandeliers on people, giant church bells. It's just like, I wonder if, afterwards Bruce Wayne's making a big donation to Arkham Asylum, because does it ever come back in the series, or is it like, do you ever see it again?
You end up in the city and stuff like that. Yeah. It's kind of on the horizon, I think, a couple of times. But yeah, I mean, either that or maybe he's got a construction company that
embezzlement,
get a handy little contract for.
It's just like, I just noted halfway through, I was like, Batman is a fucking menace. Like, need J. Jonah Jameson over from Spider-Man, like, to get Batman. But yeah, so it took me a couple of goes to get into this game, but I totally get why it's so well regarded. And even, like I say, I know it's had that polish in 2016, but I can see the through thread back to the 2009 version. I don't think it's that far of a leap. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think it looks that much different. I've got it on PlayStation 3 as well. I could have played it on that as well, but it was just an ease of use. And yeah, it just I don't think it's still at a mind-blowing level. I don't know if it necessarily ever was, but certainly I can see people say it's like, like I think I put it on my Instagram the other day. But I think it's Steve Carter, like 91, who's a supporter of ours, and he sort of said, I won't have a bad word said about the Batman games. And I'm like, I've got some gripes. So, I mean, for some people it is that, the series is that series. I don't think it necessarily still is that. But that's with hindsight, I think, really. It's easy.
You weren't there at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't there. So I'd say it's still brilliant, though. And just to get through that in that 10-hour situation, and definitely the overarching theme for me was that I definitely got that feel of, I could probably have sat one night, all night, and played 10 hours, like the night that Batman spends in Arkham Asylum, and come out feeling like, seen some shit, man. Threw some church bells down. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. But that and I want everyone to recognise people who don't listen to the podcast regularly. 8 out of 10 is a very, very good game. I think we've got probably how many games we reviewed this year? Fuck me. That is we halfway through the year now, and we're probably up to like 60 games or something stupid like that, if not more. And I'd say we've only got like 10 or 15 maybe in that top echelon. So, and that's definitely in there comfortably.
Yeah.
And other people will probably give it even higher. But yeah, I ended up really enjoying it, and I'm glad I went back to it and gave it another go because, stupid me not really understanding it in 2000 or being a different person at least anyway, a different type of gamer. But yeah, that nice. I don't think I've got any more Batman
related
things. Bat related.
Done all the Bat chat. So now we have to end the Bat pod.
Yeah,
with Bat things.
Bat things. Yeah, no. Well, I was still trying to go back to think if I could think of an animal who's worse than a koala. But
koala man,
just fucking hugging you to death. Just like, get off me! Stop being so kind. Right, okay, guys. Thanks very much for listening.
Cheers.